Okay, welcome everyone to this webinar. We're doing a product spotlight webinar today, and the product is going to be on SOLIDWORKS Visualize Professional. If you joined my webinar last time, I talked a lot about standard, and today we're going to talk about some of the features that the Visualize Professional package offers. I'm Jared Spaniel, an applications engineer at Desai Solutions, and I am out of the Fresno, California office. So some of my goals today, right? I always put my goals up here and what I want to accomplish with this presentation. I basically just want to introduce you to SOLIDWORKS Visualize, and I want to provide a basic understanding and a little bit of a workflow, and also show some of the capabilities of SOLIDWORKS Visualize Professional. So I'm assuming you guys are here to watch and learn about Visualize Professional, which is awesome. I'm going to address some of the four main questions here: the who, the what, the how, and the why. More specifically, I'm going to talk about who has Visualize Professional, or who would want it. What is it? How does it work? And what you can actually do and accomplish with this product. And then at the end, the big question, why should you use it, right? So we'll hit all those main points and kind of summarize a few of those things. So who has it, all right? Well, keep in mind that now we're talking about this separately purchased product that is the professional version of Visualize. There is a Visualize Standard and a Visualize Pro. As we discussed in the past webinar, the Visualize Standard is an included version that comes with SOLIDWORKS Professional and Premium. This product, Visualize Professional, is obviously a complement to the standard version. It offers a significant list of additional features that can be used to create more interactive content to showcase your designs and products. The standard version is a great starting point, but if you need more features and functions, then you're in the right place to see if this product is a fit for your needs. So really what it's doing is it's allowing the ability to provide a higher level product experience using mostly animations, right? Another hidden question that I get is if you do get Visualize, or if you do have Visualize, either standard or professional, how do you access it, right? You can access it through the installation manager under the visualization tab right below 3D design, and all you have to do is enter in your serial number in the boxes just like any other product, and it will install. Since we're talking about the Pro version here, right? You'll get that serial number when you actually purchase the license of Pro. If you are still interested in the standard version and you have SOLIDWORKS Pro or Premium, we can get you that serial number, or you can access it through your customer portal. Either way. So who is it for, right? Well, it's truly for anyone that needs to take realistic photos of their product without actually having to get a physical camera pointed at a physical product to get great images, or in this case, we're kind of talking more about animations. So in this webinar, we're looking at the Visualize Pro version, which of course still has all the capabilities of standard, but has added a lot of extra functionality to enhance the output. So with Visualize Pro, you can get a deeper story by using things like animations, camera follows, turntables, exploded animations with part fade outs, and many other advanced features that come only in the professional version. So what is it? Well, if you haven't figured it out by now, it's a visualization software. It's basically the camera for SOLIDWORKS. Now you can always get an image capture directly from SOLIDWORKS with multiple techniques, and even capture some appearances and specific materials, but that's about where that capability ends. With Visualize Standard, you can take this to another level of image creation with colors, shadows, appearances, scenes, custom backgrounds, lighting, so many other effects. Now with Visualize Pro, you can get much more interactive content. Specifically, we're talking about animations and mainly thinking about it like the ability to move components around. The purpose of this is to get that emotional response from these animations. So let's take a look at a few examples and see how you would feel looking at these. So this first example I showed last time, but it's a drill. So on the left we have a real product model with some appearances and colors. It looks okay, nothing spectacular, right? Now take a look at this image on the right and see the difference. A drastic improvement, complete with decals, materials, colors, lighting, and even a background. So which one would you want to buy or include in a customer product presentation based on this image output, right? I think the answer here is pretty obvious. Another example here is this kitchen product. One on the left, basically just a simplified, boring white CAD model, no appearances, nothing really applied, just a simple background. The one on the right, you can't even tell it's not a real image, but it's a visualized rendering complete with real-world background image that really brings this product to life and puts it in a setting, right? So pretty straightforward on which one that you would actually want to look at here or utilize for your marketing content or anything else, right, on the website, stuff like that. So the key difference between the packages is mainly just think of it as the ability to render still images in Visualize Standard and moving images via animations, turntables, panoramas, etc. in the Pro version. So what I've highlighted here is kind of some of the high-level options in Visualize Pro, like the panoramas, the virtual reality content, one-click 360-degree spins, which are also called turntables, and then the actual feature animations themselves, right? So let's take a look at some examples that I've worked on to showcase how easy it is to use and what kind of outputs you can get. So if you watched my last webinar on Visualize Standard, I chose to use an R2-D2 example here to show a few things within Visualize. So now I'm going to show what I created in Standard and how I was able to improve upon it with the Pro version. I talked last time about some of the stuff that some of the features I wanted to use in the Pro version and how I thought I could make it look, and I think I was able to accomplish that pretty well. So right here we have just showcasing the basic SOLIDWORKS part with appearances added for a baseline example, right? So this is just straight from SOLIDWORKS. We'll call it the before. I had all the appearances already populated within SOLIDWORKS. So the great thing about that is they carry forward directly from SOLIDWORKS to Visualize. So it saves a lot of time and effort by not having to reapply all those. Now this image was what I created in the standard version of Visualize. So I think it looks pretty good, but I think it can be better. And there was a few specific features I would have really liked to use, but were only in the professional version. So specifically, I wanted to use things like directional lights and mainly the bloom option for some of my lighting to really make this pop. And what I'm going to show you is how I did that. So I'm going to show you the output, the final output that I got. So this is the example that I created in the Pro version. I was able to take advantage of the bloom option for my emissive lighting. I added some directional lights, and I also added some spotlights along with tweaking the perspective settings to really bring the image to life, right? So I think that one looks pretty good. We're gonna jump into Visualize in a second, and I'm just gonna show you a few things that I utilized to create this and how easy it was. Then this next slide here, this is showcasing the ability to use configurations to control appearance colors. So with the Pro version, you can utilize configurations, and I created a few configurations here with different light colors, and I was even able to render all these configurations at once, and it was very simple to create these. So let's take a quick look at some of the options I used to set up these images and configurations and really make them stand out. So if I move over to Visualize, right, here's my Visualize interface. We looked at this a little bit before. I have my model here, so I have 5 tabs, right? I have models, appearances, scenes, cameras, and then my libraries. In the models tab, what I did when I brought this in, I'm not going to talk about the importing and all that again, but I brought it in based on appearance, so all my appearances are grouped here. And there's some options on the right here that you can use to customize all of this type of stuff, like the snap to floor, how you want your position to be, different things like that. And then if I look at my appearances tab, I have all my appearances. So this is basically a list of all the appearances that came in, and these came in from SOLIDWORKS, right? And then I have my scenes. So here's kind of where a few of the things came in that I added from the Pro version, right? I played around with the scenes, so I brought in a couple of different scenes. And what you'll notice here is the one with the green check is the one that's active currently. And what you can do with these is you can basically use these to control a significant portion of the lighting. So for like instance, this fade out here that I have is controlled by my scene here. the rotation, there is shortcuts for all of these options here in the tab tab on the right. I'm not going to go into every shortcut, but I'm just going to use the manual version for now. So say for instance I want to control this lighting a little bit differently. What I can do is rotate this, and what it's doing is it's rotating my scene around my model or my center point, right? In this case, the R2 unit head. So I can utilize this rotation to control some of this lighting and get it to look kind of how I want, right? Then what I was able to do was, one of the key pro features that I wanted to use was these lights. So you can add new lights by right-clicking here and just saying new light, and then you can add add the light by a target or a position, or you can match the current camera. I use the target and a position, so if I click on one of these lights, you can say pick target, and you can actually pick a point on your model to have the light kind of point at. And then you can specify a bunch of different options in here. So if I look back at general, you can rename the light to something specific. You can make sure that it's enabled. You can lock the light into position, and then you can control the type of light. So in this case, they've added, this is one of the things that was new for 2018 Visualize. You can add different types of lights, so different shapes. You can have a sphere, a plane, a disc, a tube, a directional light, or a specific spotlight, right? And then of course you can change the brightness of that light with the dial here. You can change the color. So if you want to have it be a specific color, we can adjust that. And we can even change the color temperature with the slider, right? And this all basically adjusts how your model looks in subtle ways depending on what you're showing, right? And the only way that you can get it to look right is basically by trial and errors, figuring out what looks good and what doesn't, and how many lights you want to add, and having a different background and all of these things, right? So I've added a few. Mainly I went off the rotational, the primary light from the back plate or the background. We'll call it the scene, I guess. And then I added a few other lights, like an area tube light, area plane light, and a directional light. And I changed some settings there. The next thing that I really took advantage of was this bloom option. So if I jump back over here to my appearances, what you'll notice is I have a couple different LED lights here, and I use those as focal points for this LED and these LEDs over here. So if I click on one of these and look at it, I used an emissive appearance type, which is what you can utilize with the bloom option. So if I jump back over here to my cameras, I'm in this viewport right here. I created a new viewport, and under filters, there is an option for enable bloom. I turned this option on, and what that does is it really makes those emissive lights essentially radiate that light out around them, right? And you can control the intensity, the radius, and the threshold of that lighting. And I'm using it on this light here and these lights here, which I think really made the entire thing kind of pop, right? And make sure that when you do that, you have to have the enable bloom option checked. And then there's some other post-processing options that you can do in here as well with the enable post-processing option. So make sure that if you guys are in here playing around and trying to figure things out and get it to look differently, you kind of dig through these tabs and just look and see what's different. The other one that I used here was on the general tab for my viewport was I used this perspective. There's orthographic, perspective, and 360. And then I turned the perspective up. And what you'll see is if I use the dial on that, it basically changes how the model looks, right? And it brings it closer to the viewer or farther away depending on how you put the dial, right? So lots of cool stuff going on there. The other thing that I utilized was the configurations just to kind of show that. But up here in the heads-up display, you get quite a few other options now. The turntable here being one of them. So a very simple animation, and I'll show this one a little later. It's just by clicking on the turntable that it rotates your model. I use this configuration, so if you click the drop down here, there's an add configuration plus sign. And then right here, I added some configurations. Within each one of these configurations is the new color for my LED light, right? So I just basically created or copied an appearance. I made a color change, I dropped it on there in the new configuration, and now if I wanted to show those different configurations, I can easily just cycle through them. This is really great if you have a product that you know is going to have multiple colors. Say you have something that's a molded part for a customer and it has multiple colors and you want to show all these different colors in one model. You can just create different configurations and have different appearances applied to each one of those configurations, and then when you're showcasing this, you can cycle through those configurations very quickly. You can render out all the configurations at once, so you have all the images to utilize in your presentation, your website, your pamphlet, your brochure, whatever you're showcasing, right? So with that, let's look at the animation. So here I utilize the animation timeline to make it appear like R2 was walking across the screen. And I'll show the final output of this at the end with the addition of music and sound effects, so stay tuned for that. The question I'm sure I'll get is how long did this take to render out? So this simple animation, which was about 8 seconds, took about an hour and 45 minutes to make this short clip. So keep that in mind when you want to render an animation, and it also obviously depends on your computer speed, if you render with the GPU and the CPU or the hybrid mode, and making sure that you have everything else basically closed out, right? So make sure you give yourself plenty of lead time to test this out, and you might want to even change something and then have to do it again later, right? So I hope these animations are showing up okay, and I'll show this one again. It might be a little choppy on the webinar interface, but I'm doing the best I can with the animations, so we'll see. If it's choppy here, come back and view it on YouTube, and it'll hopefully be a little bit cleaner. So this backplate was just a image that I found, Google Images, and I pulled that off of there and basically saved it out as an image and then brought it in here as a scene. So you can see under my scenes, backplate, here's this backplate that I used. Very simply, this is how you can get custom backplates, custom images. You can put pictures in here, just like that one I showed with the kitchen appliance and the people in the background. That's how they got that in there. So cool stuff you can do. Like I was saying, view, show timeline. The timeline's already up on this one. And what I did here was I basically just created some key points as I went along. I created just a short 7-second animation for the purpose of this little example here. And then I just stepped R2 along the screen, created some key points, and now when I hit play, you can see that he goes along. Now, obviously it's fuzzy here because it's not rendered out. This is actually showcasing it in Visualize. Once it rendered out, which is what I showed earlier, that all cleans up. That's what the rendering does. Right? So the animations are pretty straightforward to create. You just drag out the red arrow for the length of the animation you want, and then you can create key points along here as you move your model around in the screen. Here's another example. So this example is showing a simple option of that 360 turntable we talked about. So this can be easily rendered or shown in the Visualize interface as well. But this is a really simple one because it's basically a button click and you hit render out as a 360 turntable, and then it'll create this really cool animation of something basically just rotating around, and you can specify the angle that it rotates and a few other things in there. But a really great, very simple example basically just rotates your model around. Here's another one. So this is a great example of a sun study. This is also a pro feature. So is the turntable. But this example simulates the rising and setting sun over your product. Great for any outdoor product examples that you want to showcase. I'll play that one again. Hopefully it's showing up okay. So that's pretty cool. That's just called a sun study. So some of the what's new stuff, I wanted to hit on that a little bit at the briefly here. The 2018 what's new stuff, we can now do virtual reality. We can do 360 panoramas and animated panoramas on any virtual reality device. So this is easily set up with the camera where you want to look around. Click a single button and Visualize, create amazing VR content. It's got support for 360 stereographic animations as well. Sun studies, camera flies, exploded views, part animations. It also supports any VR device like Oculus Rift, the Samsung Gear, Google Daydream, and even the Google Cardboard. So you can really totally immerse yourself in any 3D scene at 1:1 scale, including animations. And I've tested this out on my phone with a Google Cardboard. It is pretty cool. So we have new area lights, right? So I showed that. That was one of the things I actually wanted to use. So you can render complex interior scenes faster than ever using these new area lights, even in fast mode. You can click on the model. You can place the light exactly where you want it to shine. Much easier to set up and control lighting of the scene. They can also be used to replace the emissive lighting technique, although in my case I really wanted that emissive lighting bloom option to be on. And then the other question I kind of get a lot is, what are the capabilities of Pro? So this is just kind of a summary list I put together of all the different capabilities that Professional has. So it has boost rendering, so you can send out to a network cluster of machines to help with that workload for the rendering process. Full animations of parts, models, cameras, and appearances. We talked about the one-click 360 spins or the turntable. You can do camera flybys with camera animations. You can fade out opacity of parts for like an assembly that's being exploded. We look directly at configuration examples. We can create web content and VRs with panoramas. We can now support cut planes and cut plane animations. There's an integrated render queue. You can have multiple viewports, and then we talked about the advanced lighting and environments like sun studies as well. So why should I use Visualize Professional? Well, I think it's pretty obvious, but it allows you to design in a truly photographic environment. You can make a great first impression when presenting designs. And there's also been a shift in consumer demand for more interactive content to aid purchasing decisions, right? We can create marketing content in parallel with design development, which is probably the biggest one here. You don't have to wait for your actual design to be done to have a product in hand, a physical product that you can videotape or take images of. When you have Visualize, everything can be done pretty much in parallel as long as you have a solid model, which ultimately allows you to deliver better products to market faster. So in summary, we all know a picture is worth 1,000 words. What Visualize really allows you to do is tell a deeper story, captivate your audience, and hopefully you'll see a significant time savings to go from concept to dynamic and powerful photorealistic pictures, or in this case, animations. So with that, I'd like to thank you guys for attending. I hope this was helpful to our new or interested Visualize users out there. And I'll leave you with my finalized animation that I rendered out and added a short music clip to and some sound effects. So check this out.